Hey everyone, this is the second part of last week's episode. If you didn't hear it, hit pause, go back a week to catch up.
One of my biggest takeaways, surprisingly, from the experience was watching how my parents dealt with this situation. I come from a very happy, very healthy, home. My parents have a very, very, loving, happy marriage. And I know that I am very lucky to have had that experience.
Right.
But I'm really thankful that as I was entering my adult years, I got to see, okay, how do you healthily in a marriage tackle an issue and not just attack the person?
Right.
How do you do this in a way that's productive and as a team instead of just
Instead of blame.
right, set of blame. So that was probably on my mind just because I'm engaged now. I'm getting married in September.
Oh, yay.
So that kind of stuff has been on my
Right.
mind, and I was like, I'm actually really glad I had that experience because I got to see.
Hi everyone, I'm Lexie Callies. Do you feel the squeeze of caring for an elderly loved one and school-aged children? Then welcome to the Sandwich Stories. Let's dig in.
So he ended up moving actually to Tulsa, which I'm sure is a very, very difficult move on someone that's 90 years old to move.
Why Tulsa?
So that's where my aunts are.
Ah.
And so he couldn't move back in with my uncle because they still have a small child.
Yes. And
So my dad called my aunts and was like, hey, y'all are going to have to come up with a plan here because it's just not going to work anymore.
Right.
So if one of y'all want to take him into your home, that's great. Or if y'all can figure something.
An apartment.
Right. An apartment or something. And they figured out some kind of plan between the two of them.
Like a tag team.
I
know there are some families that they have their days of the week.
Right.
So if maybe your grandfather had an apartment or they would have their days of the week to come in and care for him.
So he ended up moving into basically an assisted living.
Right. Okay.
So, and he's been there for 3 years.
Okay.
Something
and that seems to be going well.
Oh my God, he loves it. I will tell you this, he loves it so much. He married the woman next door to him.
Oh my goodness. I've heard this happens. I'm always intrigued by this. My mother is not that person. My father passed and there was never going to be anybody else ever again. But I do hear this happens and it's always amazing to me.
It's actually really cute. Yeah. He made friends with the woman. I can't remember if it was next door or literally across the hall. It was one of the two. And they just started spending all their time together. And she sat him down one day and she was like, now I am a good Christian woman. And I cannot be spending all this time with a man that I am not married to.
That's so interesting.
So either you need to marry me.
Or we can't be friends
anymore. We can't be friends anymore.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, well, okay, let's just get married.
You know what? I love a woman who puts it out there. It's just like, this is the way it's going to be. And if you don't like it, then you can just shove off.
Literally.
So I did that to my husband.
Really?
I put the ultimatum out. I said, I am not here. I was at a certain age. I was done dating just to date. And I told my husband on our first date, I said,
do not waste my time.
Don't waste my time. I said, I am not here to date just to date anymore.
Right.
And if you were looking for that, then great. We will have a fun time tonight, but I'm not your girl.
There you go.
And he said, yeah, we're good. Because I am there with you. So, but I love it when, you say what you want to say.
Yeah.
Put it out there. Don't beat around the bush. Don't waste everybody's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
Well, so then he just stepped up and
then he married her.
Yeah. Well, all right.
They even made the local news in Tulsa.
Oh my gosh. That's super cute.
It was very cute.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe the change in his lifestyle was what was allowed that to happen? That moving into assisted living, you're around others your age, you have a lot of similarities and a lot of shared experiences. But then if he chose not to drink anymore, then do you think that was allowed? That's maybe what opened that door for him to be able to have someone like her.
Absolutely.
Have you met her?
I have not.
Okay.
I think I met her over FaceTime once, but we have not met face to face.
Okay.
But I hear she's a very, very sweet woman.
Okay.
Everyone's like, you'll love her.
Okay.
And he's 90. Let's see, at this point, he's like 94, 95.
Okay.
Maybe 96.
Yeah.
And she's in her early 80s.
So wow.
She's like the young one.
Yes.
He robbed the cradle there.
Wow. That's.
I think she's like 82.
Do you know, has she been married before?
She has.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and is a widower?
Yeah. So she was a widower. I believe her husband died of cancer 20 or 30 years ago. So she was single for a while.
She's had her own life as a single lady.
Right.
So why not?
Yeah.
Let's try this again.
Right.
See how this goes.
Right.
That's so nice though to have that companionship though.
Yeah.
That
it has, I think, made the world of difference in his life.
And in your family's life.
Yeah.
Maybe she brings something out of him that y'all didn't know was there.
His kindness.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
And have you seen a change in dynamic when it comes to either your relationship with your grandfather or your dad's relationship with his dad through maybe when he just moved out of the house? Was there a shift there that almost like, was there a levity, or did he still maybe feel, or do you think he still maybe felt some responsibility to have taken care of him, but he just couldn't anymore?
That's a really good question.
Okay.
That I don't know that I have the answer to.
No, that's okay.
Because we moved out at the same time.
Right.
So I kind of stopped seeing all the behind the scenes stuff because I suddenly was no longer living at home.
Okay.
From what I understand, they still talk just as much.
Okay.
Like, I think they talk every day on the phone. And their relationship is good.
Yeah.
I don't know if it necessarily has gotten better or worse.
Right.
But my dad still tries to be very active in his life.
That's good.
So, and my grandfather will call all the time just to, when's the Ranger game coming on?
That's nice.
What channel is it on?
Yeah, well, go ask your new wife.
Right.
How do you think that this has affected you over having your grandfather and that dynamic in your life for a good amount of time? Depending on how long you date, sometimes that could be a successful relationship. 5 to 6 years is a long time.
Right.
But how do you think that has affected you since then, moving forward in your life and maybe your relationships or how you look at life?
This is going to sound terrible, but it's the truth.
I like the truth. I just want to hear the truth.
It's given me more compassion for old people.
Okay.
A lot more compassion for old people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, at least for me, it was very easy to forget that, like, old people are old because they've lived a very long time, which should seem obvious, but sometimes it's really frustrated when they walk slow or they're mean or whatever. And it's like, okay, well,
but there's a reason.
Right. Their bones are old.
Their bones are old, so they are going to walk slow.
Their muscles are old. They're tired.
But then also they've lived a life that we don't know about.
They've endured a lot of trauma.
Yeah. I mean, and someone of your grandfather's age has lived through a lot of changes in this world.
Oh, yeah. He was in the, I believe, Korean War.
Yes.
And got shipwrecked.
Wow.
During the Korean War.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
But there's a story there. And have you ever asked him about the story? Does he talk about those things? Is he a sharer in that way?
He is a sharer, but he also is one of those that really likes to embellish the story.
Oh, okay. Well,
so my aunts and uncles are like, this is the story, but we don't really know how much of it is true or not.
That's okay.
Because he does like to tell tall tales.
Well, that's all right too.
So
that, and think if he was in the Korean War, he was 20 years old?
Yeah, and he got drafted.
Yeah, so he was 18, 18 and 20.
Yeah.
And so to be born right before World War II, and then to live through, I'm sure, a tough time in his family, and then to move forward and then go through war. But and war changes people. We all know that. It
does.
I see that a lot with my mom and her assisted living, and they have a wall of anyone who has been a vet is up on the wall. So
Oh,
you
I
get to
love
see
that.
their pictures of when they
Yeah.
were in the military service. So even the women. So if you were a vet, you're up there. So I think that's really amazing. But yeah, to have old people, the elderly people just carry a lot.
They do.
And to endure all the technological changes in life
It's hard.
in the past. It's hard for me sometimes. Everybody who knows me
Right.
wishes I could live with a rotary phone.
I know my iPhone updated on me last night, and I woke up this morning and I was like, I don't know how to use this anymore. What happened?
No, everyone is. If I could live with a rotary phone and an answering machine, and I could not have my smartphone with me all
Give
the
me
time,
a pager and we'll
it'd
be good.
great. I mean, yes, this is all the good things. But yeah, I'm sure. I would hope that maybe. I mean, Tulsa is still far, and
It is.
you've had not an estranged relationship, but a strained relationship
Right.
with your grandfather. That, I mean, have you ever thought like, oh, maybe I should go and just have some visits with him, or now that he's in a better place to just go? Do you ever feel like you should just go talk to him, just wisdom wise or life wise? Or is
No,
it something that you're just not interested in?
it depends on the day.
Okay.
Some days I'm like, absolutely not.
Which I understand.
And then there are other days when I'm like, I would just love to
sit and chat.
Yeah, I've thought about like sneaking in like a recorder.
Yeah.
And like just recording a conversation, just to hear his stories, because I'm sure when he's gone, that would be
right. They're gone.
Right.
When he's gone, the stories are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. I do wish that anyone who's listening, I do wish that I had more recordings of my dad telling his stories, because I still love them and I remember them so fondly of things, and I bring them up, and I'm sure there's people who are like, oh my God, all she does is talk about her dad and his stories. And I'm like, but I love them so much. They're such a part of me that I wish I had the recordings of my dad saying those stories. And funny enough, people have found that some elderly people won't talk to their family members, but they will talk to strangers more openly than they would within their family.
That's
especially for things that are tough. Like, there are World War II vets that are happy to talk about everything, and there's others that they went and did their war,
they lock
and
it
they
up.
came home and they don't talk about it anymore.
Right.
But they have found that they will talk to strangers. They won't tell their families. And my mother did this. She was part of a project that North Texas did, and finding World War II vets, and she interviewed them, and then they transcribed the whole interview and put it into a bound book. And so the family members got a bound book, but the book is also in the UNT library. So anyone can find the stories and read them and listen to them. And she interviewed 2 men, and part of that project, the children of the family were just listening. They're like, we have never heard any of these things. He would never talk to us about any of it. But the fact that he was just so willing and open to talk to you is just, they were so thankful, because they had no idea. Like, they found out that one of the gentlemen survived Pearl Harbor only because the men got new barracks, and the Japanese actually had old intel. And the men, and so they had that the men were in tents in a certain part of the beach. And the day before was the day the men moved into the new barracks.
Wow.
And so he was in one of the new barracks, and that's how he survived Pearl Harbor.
Wow.
But, so it's stories like that nobody would have ever heard or known. And so that's why I always like ask people like you, like, do you go and talk to him and just listen to stories? Because I'm a collector of stories and people. And so I love to hear people's things. So just to be able to have that out there just to say, oh yeah, I had that conversation with him and I remember that. And it was a good conversation. It maybe could take the place of a bad situation you had in your past. You could maybe replace it with something that is, oh, I don't have to think about that sad day or that hard day. I can remember this one day that we had. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe that would encourage you to talk to him or see him.
Yeah.
Because maybe that would do good for you.
It would be
I would hope maybe. I don't want to put this upon you, but to maybe replace some bad memories with fond memories as you move forward in life.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be open to that.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I do too.
I know. So if you do, let us know. Okay. I'm going to tell everybody. I don't need to know the story. I'm just gonna be like, hey, side note. We had a great conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess, like I said, moving forward with your relationships and things, like you think about the elderly in a certain way, does it inform you or make you make choices in life for yourself in a different way? Do you look at relationships in your own personal life a little differently because of those were formative years?
They were.
So to move forward in life, to have that affect you, do you find, or do you think, oh, this is why I make this choice? Or
yeah, I think I actually was, because obviously I've known for a while we were going to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to say.
Right.
One of my biggest takeaways, surprisingly, from the experience was watching how my parents dealt with this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a very happy, very healthy, home. My parents have a very, very, loving, happy marriage. And I know that I am very lucky to have had that experience.
Right.
But I'm really thankful that as I was entering my adult years, I got to see, okay, how do you healthily in a marriage tackle an issue and not just attack the person?
Right.
How do you do this in a way that's productive and as a team instead of just
blame?
Right, instead of blame. So that was probably on my mind just because I'm engaged now. I'm getting married in September.
Oh, yay.
So that kind of stuff has been on my mind. And I was like, I'm actually really glad I had that experience because I got to see, okay, how do you handle really difficult real life situations?
Yeah. And, most people our age don't, a lot of the times, if you could still have parents who are taking care of grandparents, but like for me or for you, you're out on your own. You're not part of it all the time. So you don't get to see those day-to-day decisions and choices and how parents move through that.
Right.
So yeah, I'm sure you were lucky to see that, but then also to see what maybe a not so great relationship could look like also.
Yes.
But also, yeah, to know that you're coming from a really strong, healthy relationship with your parents. And then, yeah, because teamwork, I always say you should marry your best friend. You love the person you marry. Otherwise,
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
Right.
But they should also be your best friend. You should be able to move through life and make those tough decisions as a team, like you said, like your parents did. And for them to show that to you, you were really lucky.
I was. I know I was very
Most
lucky.
people don't get to see that. Because when you were younger, if there was something tough, your parents aren't going to discuss it with you. They're not going to show you because it's none of a child. It's none of a child's business. It's none of a 4 or 5. And you live in La La Land, right? And your parents could be making tough choices in front of you, but you're not aware.
And I'm still eating glue.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you could be eating glue.
Or sniffing crowns or
whatever it was. Yeah, but you're doing your own thing, and it's not something that you would pay attention to or even remember.
Right.
Yeah, so you're so lucky. I know it's not the way you would want to have seen that, but to be able to see it.
Yeah.
And hopefully that helps you and your fiance in in the future life you have together, and how to make those tough choices.
They're hard.
Yeah. So, and were these things that you have, I'm sure you have, but to share this with your fiance moving forward, it's like, this is what I've seen, and to be a team is important to me.
Yes. And that's also that opened up the door between my parents and I, of like, okay, when the positions are reversed and you're old,
right,
and I'm the one taking care of you,
what do you want?
How do we navigate this?
Right.
And they actually told me, they're like, just stick us in a home.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, no, I'm not just going to stick you in a home. And they're like, just stick us in a home.
Oh, that might change.
And I'm like, I would take really good care of you.
You would take
And they're like, no, we know you would take really good care of us.
Right.
We don't want you to have to take good care of us.
Yeah, though. And I think so. And a lot of parents will say that they don't want to be a burden to their children. But sometimes it's, no, I know I don't have to, but I want to.
Right.
And
that's what I've told them. I'm like, I want to do this. You changed my diapers. I will change yours.
Yes, exactly.
It's the circle of life.
It is the circle of life. We all become toddlers again, and it just all goes around in a circle. So I can understand that. But no, I'm glad that like I said, I'm glad you got to see that. And in a lot of the ways, like you said, it was tough, but it did have a great ending.
It did. Absolutely, it did.
You got to have and they all lived happily ever after ending, which doesn't get to happen in life.
Yeah.
You don't, that's always fairy tale.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. I think that you're super lucky.
Well, thank you.
So, I know it was a lot of strife and turmoil to get there.
While it was happening. Yeah.
Yes, but to come out the other side and to say, oh, okay, now we get to look back and say, oh, look at what it got us to.
Yeah.
So that's good for you. That's awesome.
Well, thank you.
So, all right. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Okay. So, song of the week. You brought us a song.
I sure did. Okay.
What's your song? So tell us the song, and then also maybe if there's some reason why you picked that song.
Okay. So don't laugh at me.
I'm never going to laugh at you.
My happy song of the week is Dancing Queen by ABBA.
Yes.
I was actually watching a documentary on ABBA recently.
Okay.
Side note, I love 70s music.
All right.
When I was growing up, my mother always had 70s music playing throughout the house. So for someone my age, I've been told I'm like very, very versed in like 70s music.
Okay.
So obviously I was familiar with the song. I'd heard it all throughout my life.
Right.
But I had never known the history of the song.
Okay.
So the history of the song was, because ABBA is Swedish.
Yes.
Swedish? Yeah. They had been really, really big in Sweden, and they had their hits like Waterloo and all the others that had happened. But they had really been trying to break onto the American market, and they couldn't.
Okay.
And if you know anything about the music industry, it's really, really hard for European artists to break the American market. Yes. You only get one opportunity.
Right, yeah.
And if you fail, you fail.
Right.
So they were looking at kind of what was happening in the American market at the time. And it was, as we know, very much disco.
Disco, yeah.
Well, ABBA, the two men who they're the people that write the songs,
right?
They're classically trained. So to them, disco was like...
Oh, yeah, you didn't want to touch it.
Well, it's not that they didn't want to touch it, is that they just didn't know how. They're like, what is this?
Yeah.
This is so new to us. But they ended up writing what we now know as Dancing Queen. But if you actually listen to the song, like the actual music, it's actually classical music.
Yes.
If you've ever paid attention to it. And I was like, I've never noticed that it's actually like a classical song.
Yes.
With just like some disco-y beats thrown in.
Oh, now we're going to listen to it a different way.
Yeah.
I know it. I know we're all going to like pull it out after we hear this and go listen to it.
Right. So then it was released, and obviously it was a huge success. And then other artists got inspired by it, and then other artists really started to use more like, because at the time before then it was just very all like synthesized instruments.
Yeah.
And then people started to actually throw in like violins or pianos or whatever into disco music.
Yeah.
So Dancing Queen really kind of like shaped the face
That's amazing.
of disco music.
That's so
that's
cool.
your fun fact of the day.
Yay! I did not know any of this.
And that makes me happy.
I did not have disco parents. My dad was a Rolling Stones guy, so I was on the other end. That's what I grew up with. Disco was not a normal thing, but that's so cool.
Yeah.
And it just makes you happy. Do you
It does.
like the song? I love the song too. It is. I'm not well versed in ABBA, but when it's on, are you going to turn it off?
No, you're not.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. I
You're
appreciate
so
you coming. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Get out your music. Listen to ABBA. Listen for that classical music. It's going to maybe change your life on how you look at ABBA. So, all right, guys. Thanks so much. Love you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Sandwich Stories. I really hope you learned some new things and enjoyed it. If you did, tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your sister, tell your dad, tell everybody you know to also listen. Maybe they'll learn some new things, how to help each other out, and find us at Sandwich Stories Podcast. Thanks so much.